It's lovely to be here. Quite a difficult title that presentation has. Because the problem is complex. We are facing a transformation, not just in business schools, but the way we work, the way we think, and how are we dealing with problems as a society. So let me start with a story. I was finishing a session on organizational change. That's what I teach. And Patricia, as an MBA student, came to me at the end of the session. She was kind of frustrated, and she started telling me her story. She was working in a medium-sized company, family-owned company, for over 4 years. And she's been struggling because pretty much every decision in the company was made by the CEO and owner. Everything was centralized, and all the processes came through him. It was a centralized organization, very hierarchical, and all the processes were, though, slow, and the decision-making was very, very difficult. And in changing times, they needed innovation. So when she started working there, she tried to change things, to bring a more agile approximation to the company. But she only found barriers and problems to do that. When the pandemic started, then this sense of urgency that we all lived opened a new door. We now needed to go in a different direction. And the company started to change. And the owner of the company saw this as an opportunity. So they even brought a consultant in digital transformation. Very fancy consultant, you know those guys who have presentations in 3D, amazing presentations, and they started to invest in software and hardware. And they thought that was the answer. To no surprise that a few months later, they didn't achieve what they were expecting. And when the pandemic started to slow down and we have the opportunity to go back to the office, well, everything started to go as usual. And Patricia was very frustrated because she told me, well, it seems like we didn't learn anything from it. And I'm pretty sure you feel familiar with many of her thoughts. And I wanted to tell you the story of Patricia because in my presentation I want to highlight 3 elements that are there. First, work has changed. We cannot pretend that everything is going back to 2019. It's different. We are different. Organizations are different. Processes are different. And that has challenges. This is not working. Challenges. So what does it mean to have an organization when half of your employees are online or not? Also, this was happening before the pandemic, and it's going to continue happening. But for many organizations, this was a discovery. Digital transformation is the buzzword everybody is talking about. You hear it all the time. But not many people really, really understand it. Not even know how to use it or to implement it. And then we all here have a challenge. What does it mean to train leaders and managers to deal with this environment? Here, a different MBA is needed. And we have to think differently because the environment is different. So I'm going to go through all these elements with some elements that I'm hoping can get a conversation started. So let's start with new organizational challenges. So, okay, remote work. We all know that. And you know this discussion about what's going to happen for many workers. And there are huge discussions whether we want to go back to the office or not. This was published last week in the New York Times. And there are many workers who are refusing to go back. But there are also companies saying that it is important. As Andrew mentioned this morning, well, how about culture? How about interaction? Those are challenges. The office, as we know it, is less and less important. And remote work is growing. Last year, McKinsey published a report on what was expected after the pandemic. So there are benefits on work from home or remote work, flexibility, cost savings, you know. And during the pandemic, it was expected to grow as we all survive it. But then, how is it going to be in the future? Same thing with business travelers. We spent a couple of years from home in Zoom conferences. I don't know if we are going to go back to the same way we were, but we are now traveling. We are here. What is interesting is that it's expected to keep growing. According to the McKinsey estimate, from 20 to 25% of the employees in advanced economies are going to be working from home, at least 3 days a week, and at 10% in emerging economies, many of Latin America. It doesn't sound that much, but what is interesting is that these numbers are 4 to 5 times more than 2 years ago. But obviously, does it sound like something that we are living in our classrooms? Yes, this is a survey that we did in our MBA students in Universidad de Los Andes. And I asked them, how were you working before the pandemic, and what are your expectations in a couple of years? And look, it switched. More and more students, managers, and companies are expecting to spend more time in remote working. And that has its challenges. And this is not here and not our MBAs, for sure your students as well. This is a Gallup survey from last year in the US, and it's very, very similar. Over 50% of employees will prefer hybrid arrangements. And as I mentioned before, some of them don't want to go back to the office. But obviously, not all work can be done online or remotely. And there are challenges there. I don't know if you can see this, but McKinsey made an estimation on the potential of work in these industries that can be done remotely without losing productivity and with a theoretical maximum there. So the blue one is the theoretical maximum that you could do it online or remotely. And the black one is what you can do without losing productivity. It's very interesting because, well, you can find that in finance of insurance, pretty much everything can be done remotely. But obviously in agriculture, accommodation services, construction, mining, not so much. Not so much. What is interesting here is in the realm of computer-centric office, pretty much 70% of the work can be done remotely. All those jobs that you can do from your computer. And it doesn't matter if your computer is here or in the beach, you are still working. But I'm pretty sure you know this one, education. And it's quite interesting, the difference there. Because even though almost 70% of the activities in education can be done online or remotely, there is a gap there on the effective potential without productivity loss. It is a challenge. And it is a challenge for us to think about what are we doing and what is the potential of the online presence and face-to-face presence. And I'm going to discuss a little bit more in a few slides. But in terms of an organizational perspective, having this configuration brings a lot of challenges. Deloitte made a survey of over 3,000 executives asking, well, if we are going to go into that direction, what are the challenges? And, well, there are many. And some of them are here. What about organizational culture? Can we build an organizational culture through Zoom or Teams? How are we going to interact and create? What is the meaning of the office? We are supposed to measure performance in the same way that we used to, by the number of hours, productivity. What if our employees want to work at 3 a.m.? Is it okay or not? Are we expected to accept something like that or not? But there also brings work-life balance. Parents are dealing with challenges with kids and working at the same time. And obviously, not all are ready to this relationship between technology and work. It's quite a challenge. And that brings us to the second element. And spend 10 seconds looking at this. More and more jobs can be done by artificial intelligence. It's not secret. In a few years, and not many years from now, many of our jobs are going to be replaced. We thought that machines were unable to write, to build, to create, but they are more and more capable of doing so. And this is not science fiction anymore. Digital technology has changed and is changing the way we do business. And is changing the way universities are working, because it's changing the nature of work itself. More data than ever. We have information about everything, and it's accessible, and we have the capabilities to analyze all that information to make decisions. There are decisions that used to be made by humans that now are better done by computers. Diagnostics in medicine, for example. Machines are showing us that they are much more accurate than humans. But in terms of management and training managers, it brings a challenge. Because digital transformation is not only about software or hardware. And that's a misconception. That's what happened with Patricia and her boss. It's not about buying a wonderful software. It's about the strategy. It's about asking the right questions. It's about humans. It's about people, not bits and bytes. And what it means for the people and the relationship. So it's far more complex. And we have to take into account that, and how to teach that, how to prepare managers and leaders who think and understand what is happening there, but are able to inspire people, to lead people, to transform organizations. There is a growing interest in these topics. I'm pretty sure you have all been delivering courses, and more students want to do that. Deloitte, just a few weeks ago, published this research about interest in the C-suite and board of directors of companies on what they are wanting to invest. And they are expecting to digital transformation be the driver of growth. And it's interesting. Data capabilities, experience, cyber defense. But what is more interesting is that in the same survey, they found out that even though they know it's important, there is a huge gap. They don't feel that they have the right people to do the job. Fewer than half of respondents feel good about their organization tech leadership. In the board, but also in the C-suite. People don't really know how to approach this. And again, it's not a thing about only technical issues. It's about strategy. It's about questions, it's about people, it's about transformation. So that brings a lot of questions for us. Because look at the Patricia, the story. They thought it was about hiring a consultant, very, very expensive one. They thought it was about buying a software, but it was far more than that. And I think you know that. But are we sure that we understand the implications of that and what is needed in our classroom to develop these abilities? So I have a few questions here. I don't know the answers to all of them. I am not an expert in digital technology. But I think we have to ask us, is this a problem for just the C-suite or the tech area? Or this is a strategic issue that organizations have to deal with? How can our students and managers can differentiate these buzzword presentations with 3D animations from real value added? I mean, bullshit or real value? How can we differentiate that? Are we asking the right questions? Or, oh, sounds very nice. It's half of the presentation, and it happens to us in Latin America, if half of the presentation is in English, it must be wonderful, you know? Full of Spanglish, then, oh, it must be very good, very good. No? But are we sure that we understand what's happening there? Next, is this automation going against the blue-collar worker? Do we have a responsibility to think about what is happening, especially in Latin America? Is this something that we should discuss in the classroom or not? The implications of less and less unqualified labor in our companies? Is this something that we should discuss? Is there an ethical dilemma? Or we should look for something just about profits? What do we want? These discussions are relevant and are present. Same thing with data. What kind of data do we need? How are we using it? There is no free data, you know that. So what are they doing? What kind of issues are they? Is this a technical or a people issue? And of course, are managers, our students, ready to lead these challenges? I'm not pretty sure. And that's why I want to go to this guy. Because I firmly believe that there's no such thing as soft skill. Just hard skills and harder skills. Because for MBAs and managers, it's not just about the specific knowledge. It's not just about knowing finance. It's not just about knowing marketing. It's about how to understand a context, how to combine different knowledges in an uncertain, complex environment. And this is a different ability. A different ability is needed. Look at this. The World Economic Forum analyzes what is the relative importance of different skill groups. And in here you can see which abilities or skills are growing in importance and which one are not. And there's no surprise there. Less and less physical abilities are needed, and more critical thinking and analysis are important in organizations. Working with people, self-management, problem solving, technology use, and others are quite important. In the same analysis, the World Economic Forum concluded that 50% of employees will need a reskilling, not in 10 years, not in a decade, in a couple of years. And the important skills for 2025 are these ones, and require a different configuration, and a different way to think what we're teaching our students, a different approach to develop it. The challenge Patricia was facing had to do a lot with this and less with the software. LinkedIn analyzes what are the most popular skills for different positions. And you can see here, again, soft and hard skills, but creativity is very important, persuasion, collaboration, and others. And in hard skills, it's also changing. And we are moving to a different analytical tools. And that brings a question about us, business school, management schools, on what to do. In that context, we have to think differently. I'm pretty sure you have seen this. Our students are contributing to all these challenges. How can we do that? And there are things that are changing in our context. Andrew mentioned it this morning. There's a few elements in this report that I found very interesting. Yes, we're moving into online education more and more. I mean, if you look at the results of the survey, 75% of business schools are using virtual classrooms. Yes, and flipped classroom model is very popular, and we all want that. But it brings challenges. What is a real online education with added value? It's not the same in an emergency context that we all faced a couple of years ago. Overnight, we have to move to online platforms. But our courses, our programs were not designed from scratch to be online. And what we did, and well, we had to, was to move whatever we were doing in the classroom to an online platform. But the experience and the learning experience has to be different. It's not the same thing, a program who was designed from scratch to be online, and the learning experience designed for that, than an emergency education. We have to think differently. There are more tools online that we can use, but it also brings a lot of challenges. To engage students, to create a platform for learning, for networking, we have to think about that. And if we want to continue having face-to-face education, well, we also have to change that. We have to give a new meaning. Students are not happy coming back to the classroom to have the same lecture that they could have online. A different experience in classroom is needed as well. So we have to think differently. And in terms of topics, The long time learning survey did by AMBA showed, asked over 2,000 alumni, MBA alumni, what are the additional management programs that they wanted. And again, we show something like this. So it brings questions about the future of MBAs and what are we doing and what are the challenges that we are facing. So now, let me tell you what we in Universidad de los Andes School of Management are doing. And it's a work in progress. But we wanted to share some of our experiences in this context, very complex context. So we started to develop a new portfolio, a new way to think our MBAs. Bringing digital technology, creating new programs, but as well transforming our face-to-face interaction. So a few components that I wanted to show you. First, we live in a world with complex problems. We cannot think or we cannot believe that a simple solution to a complex problem can achieve the results that we expect. So we started to bring more interdisciplinary courses. The optimal solution from a marketing perspective, it may not be the same for the financial perspective, but we were teaching separately. But when the student went to the organization, then started to face this conflict on how to do and how to deal with that. So we started experiments, interesting experiments, creating courses taught by two professors from different areas, thinking about a problem, an issue. So a sustainability professor working with a supply chain management professor. And it's not dividing half and half of the course. It's both of them working in the same question, in the same problem, but with different perspective. And bringing that discussion and that complexity to the classroom. It's hard, really hard. As you can imagine, it's much easier for us to, okay, so you take half of the class, I'll take the other half, enjoy, that's it. But no, the challenge here is to bring them together and to discuss. And there's no clear-cut answer to many of these challenges. But it's bringing a new discussion into complex topics. So for example, there is a course that students are taking right now, and it's about sustainability and supply chain. So what they are discussing is how to reduce the carbon impact on supply chain management. And they are together, working together, and they are doing a project together. And the other approach here that I've been very, very keen about it, it's go outside the classroom. Think about projects, real-world problems that we are dealing, difficult ones. We don't know the answer, but it's a wonderful learning experience for students. And I'm going to show you in a couple of slides examples of what we're doing. The next element is online. We created a fully online MBA, but not a regular one. We are bringing together the best of the online experience. We created an experience in which we bring the flexibility needed for students, but also the high touch also needed for them. Working with professors in projects, working with each other, and bringing new technology to the learning experience. But also thinking about what a journey of transformation this is, with coaches, with reflections, and with content that helps them to become the managers they want to. In addition, we started this Leadership for Life. You can see it here. But it's easy. Everybody says that. Okay, so we train leaders, and leaders is whatever we want to define it. We as a school made a framework of what leadership is, what leadership means for us, and we are measuring, and we are making decisions on that. I'm going to show you that in a couple of slides. And we can track the development of our students and make decisions with that. Next, less and less core curriculum and more electives. Provide different alternatives for our students to create the program that they need. And we are sharing resources with other programs in the school and in the university, in these and other topics. And finally, thinking about international and intercultural experiences. More and more elements on international weeks, relationship with other universities, bringing and taking out our students from the classroom in Bogota and taking them to Europe, taking them to Latin America, taking them to other places to think about issues, problems, and perspectives. This is what we are doing. So I wanted to show you a couple of examples of what we mean by that. So let's start with Leadership for Life. This is the framework. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the framework that we as a school developed. We think that leadership, it's not just about you. It's very important, so you have to think about yourself, but also how are you affecting others in the team, at an organizational level, industry, and ecosystem. This is part of being responsible. We think about leadership in a responsible and innovative manner. So, in order to know how our students are, well, we measure it. At the beginning of the MBA program, we measure how each student is in each of these spheres of influence or responsibility. And let me show you what you can see there. So this is the 2019 cohort from the executive MBA, plus 10 years of executive experience. And this is the part-time MBA, plus 4 years of experience, professional experience. So we measure. And the colors there is the level of development of each of these abilities. So basic, it's red. Intermediate, it's yellow. Advanced is green, and master is blue. So this is how we measure. First picture, they just got into the program. Then, and you can see, there are gaps here. Things that we need to work with them. Second, measurement. Middle of the program, we're doing something right. They're getting better, so that's good news. And at the end of the program, we measure it again. And I'm pretty sure you see there some gaps. We did too. So for example, here, there is a challenge. Even though we were doing some stuff, our students were not really engaged in their responsibility for the ecosystem and what they are doing and the decisions that they were making, how were they affecting the community. So this helped us to develop new and better methodology approximations. So we reinforced what we are doing in a learning by doing approximation. And here are some of the examples. We took out the students from the classroom and we started to work with them. So for example, in here, these are Cornell MBA students that each year come here to Colombia and work with our MBA students, working with medium and small enterprise to help them in a Latin American context. But it's a quite interesting experience. In here, we work with our MBA students on the carbon footprint of logistics here in Cartagena. And we bring our students here to Cartagena, and they understand the problem talking with different stakeholders, not just the professors. They go, they ask people. They have to interact with each other, understand the complexity of the problem, and came up with a solution. And what is interesting is that we don't really know what the solution is. But we help them throughout the process. And at the end of the course, they have to present to a board of directors their solution. And the board of directors buys or not the solution. Here are some examples of what we're doing. So for example, in digital transformation, huge challenge in the healthcare system. How to integrate different stakeholders in the healthcare system. There's the hospital, there's the patient, there's the insurance company, there's the ministry. They all work differently. Instead of creating a digital transformation course, we build a challenge. And we say, okay, so let's answer that question. And by doing so, you will learn the impact of different stakeholders in an industry. By doing this, you will learn about digital transformation. By doing this, you will become a better leader. By doing this, you will be able to present this to a board of directors. For example, this project was very interesting. There is a region in Colombia who is highly dependent on coal mining. Coal is, well, you know the story about coal. So what to do with that community, what to do with businesses there. So we brought students to talk with indigenous people. We talked with companies, with the government, with others, to come up with a solution. What should we do in an energy transition or new business models? In agriculture, and so on, so on. In conclusion, we have to reshape our MBAs, thinking about the challenges that we are facing. We cannot continue doing the same thing. We cannot go back as Patricia's story. We cannot pretend that everything is going back to normal. No. There are a few things that are changing. First, digital transformation, yes. Is a buzzword? Yes. We have to understand it better? Yes. But we have to lead that conversation. We have to understand it. And we have to train leaders in order to go into that direction. Online. We really love online. Online brings a new way of learning. We have to take advantage of it for making better and more flexible alternatives. Wonderful. But face-to-face is still important. It's not over. But it's not the same. It's not a lecture. It's a learning experience, a different approximation. It's a project-based learning. A new set of skills really, really is needed. More and more critical thinking. Our students must be able to ask the right questions, the difficult ones. Must be able to think the difficult elements of the organization. Complex reasoning in uncertain environments, it's needed. It's not prescriptive anymore. And they need to inspire others. They have to lead. They have to move. They have to think about people skills. How to move people, inspire people, lead people in order to make this true. Otherwise, we are going to have more and more Patricias, frustrated, knowing very much about finance or marketing or supply chain management or strategy, but unable to transform, to change their organizations, their environment, their ecosystems. And this is a challenge that we all have. We are doing some stuff, but we need to do more. I think I show you our bet for the following months and years. Thank you so much. And here's the question. So I think we have about a few minutes for questions and comments.
Thank you, David, for your presentation. Very interesting. I would like to I have two questions. And before that, I would like to say that we're talking about different topics about sustainability and diversity and SMEs and entrepreneurship and now digital transformation. So I'm very glad that you combine some of the topics because we face all these issues combined. So I have two questions about it. The first one I think is very interesting about the interdisciplinary courses. And I would like to ask you about how do you choose the topics that you combine in an interdisciplinary course? And the second question is, it's amazing what you have done, but I would like to hear about you. What have been the main obstacles in your journey? Thank you.
Thank you. So making pairs of professors is quite difficult, as you can imagine. We started thinking about what makes sense from a problem-based perspective. So we were thinking, for example, we started from energy transition, and then we went back. What kind of knowledge or different perspectives do we need in order to help students to solve that question? But then a challenge started, as you can imagine, because not all professors are really keen to do this, because it's uncomfortable, it's risky, it's difficult. So at the beginning was kind of hard. And it's a challenge because you have to build something completely new with the risk of having bad reviews, with the risk of spending a lot of time in something that we may never do it again. So one of the challenges is bring professors on board. How are we doing that? I'm guessing my seduction powers. But it's really wonderful to find people. There is always someone in the school thinking that these kind of things, but they don't have the platform to do it. So you start saying this, and you get people excited. I'm not going to say a lot, but we have 74 full-time faculty in the school, and right now, we are working with about 10. We are working with about 10. It's good. It's not there yet, because we need a lot more if you want to transform this. This is one of the challenges. The other challenge is, well, when we are working with these difficult issues and problems, there are many things that go beyond our control. And we don't like that. We as professors don't like that. So things happen. We don't know what's going to come out of it. A lot of this comes with collaboration with companies, with others, with the government. And there are many times that we don't know what's going to happen next, and we have to be very flexible and changing on the spot. And that's a huge challenge, because the evaluation is different, the context is different. Things change very quickly. And sometimes we are not ready to adapt as quickly.
So, congratulations on your ability to convince professors to do it. So, beyond getting them excited, there's also the retraining, the upskilling that they need to go through. So how do you as a school or maybe as a university address the challenges that come with it? Like there's IT training or digital technologies training, and there's experiential learning training that they have to go through. So how are you going about those challenges?
There is a mix on learning by doing. We are also learning by doing. But there is training. Fortunately, at the university we have a school of education. Education school, yeah. An education school that they helps to us, and there is a department that help us. And for example, for the online experience, we are working with a partner. We know what we are doing, and we know the topics, but we didn't know how to bring that into an online experience. So what we are doing is working with a partner. They bring all the knowledge that they have in order to make something that makes sense in the online environment, and we bring our professors, and we are learning. I am learning quite a lot every day on how to do this in a different environment. So partnerships with other schools, with other universities as well, and with other universities as well.
Hi. Thank you very much. Just to share a little bit, we are doing some of the things you're doing. We already have. We also have an education school with a Center for Innovation in Teaching, and we have been training professors on this for a couple of years before the pandemic, and accelerated a lot during the pandemic. But we also found that, of course, you have to practice and you have to evolve. But we also found that we had to change the topics we were teaching. And there is only 2 years in masters. So if you are going to put something new, you have to take something out.
Yes.
So we did new programs. We a master in digital businesses that is 70% new. 70%. 30% is the old management stuff, and 70% is very sophisticated technical stuff that is new. And for that, we brought new faculty, because our faculty was not experienced nor educated, and the professional practices go in front of the academicians. I mean, we still don't have research, nor handbooks, nor articles about the things they are doing in the practice. So we had to bring the practitioners inside the classroom. We managed that way. But in the BA, we had to put new courses and take out old courses. So can you give us an example of what new topics have you put in, and what topics have you take out?
Okay, yes. It's been quite a struggle, as you can imagine, because there are some courses that are long from a professor who's teaching this for many years, and so we need to change it. So there are courses that we are rethinking, and things like fundamentals of management. It's not that it's not important, but we have to think in a different context. So it was a politically difficult decision, because there are areas and professors and what's going to happen with my course, and my conversation with them is like, okay, so if you want, there is a new challenge, you can be part of it. There's co-teaching, and there are incentives for co-teaching. I have to mention that. Monetary incentives, and in the terms of how many hours can they work. So for example, if we are paying the professor additional for the class, both of them got the whole payment in full. And this is helping a little bit. There's also, in terms of risk, I know there are risks when we are doing this in terms of evaluation and stuff, so we take these courses differently and we evaluate them differently than others. Other courses that we are taking, let me give you an example. We had a 59 credit program, MBA, executive MBA program, and now we turn it into a 38 credit program with far more electives. So what we're doing is, okay, taking the basics and very much interdisciplinary courses, and then, okay, so bring an elective, and you have to make it sexy enough for students to take it. And it's quite a challenge for many of professors, but we are kind of working on that.
Topics that you introduced and topics that you
Took.
out,
We brought quite a lot on digital transformation, sustainability in different forms, organizational change and strategy, elements on world context and analysis. We took out many of the basic marketing finance courses. It's not that we took out, it's that we put it somewhere else during the challenge. So for example, we now have a simulation challenge that brings everything together. And so the students are learning, but it's not the typical course, which is also challenging for me and for the students as well. I don't think we are just there yet to have the right balance, because the students also are like, okay, so I need my 4 courses in finance. It's really important for me, the 4 courses, and okay, maybe not. So it's been quite a challenge there. Okay, I think do we have time? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Thank you for a thought-provoking presentation. You mentioned you were launching a full online MBA.
Yes.
And of course, when a student decides to do a more technical master, like a master in finance or marketing, I mean, online sometimes can change the way you give the lectures. But when someone chooses an MBA, networking is very important, right? I mean, it's one of the main reasons. So what are you doing to cope with that problem? I mean, if everything is online, of course you can do breakup groups, whatever, in Zoom or the platform you're using, but it's not the same, right? So I mean, what do you do for this networking issue that people find very important?
There are 2 things, but I don't think we are just there yet. But there are 2 things that we are doing, actually 3. First, there is it's not a course, it's an experience throughout the program, which we called personal and professional development. So similar to what I show you, there is an assessment of each student, and then a path of what to do. So we bring students in similar interests beyond a classroom, and we meet with each other and with alumni and with other professors, thinking, okay, so you want to go to this path, you want to go into finance, here you have a community of alumni who are working on that. Meet them, work with them. Yeah. It's not been excessively successful just yet. That's one strategy. Second strategy is to have workshops beyond the class, also online. We have students in Australia, we have students in Europe, we have students in Central America, in the United States. So we have workshops on particular topics, so we bring experts and leaders in a particular topic, and they discuss with each other. And the third one, which is a little bit more difficult for some students, is to have face-to-face meetings. And it started by them. They started to join together, and periodically, without our intervention, they met for lunch or for dinner, and now we are organizing every semester to have a meeting. Not all can come, but this is what we're doing. But there is a challenge there. I can tell you, I think if you have ideas, please help us out, because it's not really the same. This is what we are doing. Okay, thank you so much.